want to start by talking about what the purpose of SEO is. And SEO, again, it's search engine optimization, but in reality, almost everything you interact with outside of the websites you visit, from the search engines is a search engine. So all your social media platforms, Google, now these generative AIs like ChatGPT and Perplexity and all those things, they're all searches. Some of them give you solutions, and some of them give you places to go, right? Depending on what your queries are. So obviously, a lot has changed since it. I mean, over the just what last few years, even the landscape has changed dramatically because Google is trying to catch up with all this AI stuff with their thing Gemini, and then they have ChatGPT. I talked to a couple fairly recently. I went on a trip, and this couple told me that, excuse me, that the guy told me, he said, I don't even use Google. I haven't used Google in a year and a half, and I'm like, geez, like that's becoming a mindset. I'm not saying Google's going anywhere, but some people don't want to be bothered with all the noise that's being fed to them by the search engines anymore. And
I
because,
was,
yeah, go ahead, listen.
oh, I want to know what they were using instead.
ChatGPT.
Wow.
Yeah, he said he did all his searches there, and because he wasn't being served ads. And I said, well,
Interesting.
and I told him, I said, it's probably going to start serving ads, don't you think? And he's like, well, I pay for the premium service, so I, I, I pay to not get ads.
Yeah.
You think about YouTube, there's a premium service for that. You could pay to not get ads. There's premium service for Spotify or Pandora or whatever channels you listen to. So people
Yeah.
will pay to get rid of the ad model. And because ChatGPT does more than just search, it provides like solutions and answers and problem solving techniques. So he gets all of that wrapped in one. Remember, they're all search engines, but some of them do different things. Google, for the most part, at least in terms of Google search, in theory is just a search engine, right?
Hmm.
Now, it sounds almost silly to say it that way because it's huge, right? But now there's search engines that do way more, and they're trying to catch up to that. So they have a separate thing called Gemini.Google now that basically looks like ChatGPT, but they bake their product into their other products. Whereas OpenAI or Perplexity or whatever started off that way. So I say, hey, you can do a search if you want, but also we can provide you answers, or we could write a paper for you, or we could give you recommendations on the top 3 song lists that have, mentioned coffee in the middle of it. Like you could ask it anything, and it'll literally give you answers and solutions in a lot of cases, rather than just places to go to find it. So you got to think about what's the intent behind your user base. Now, it is still useful to have searches because we're going to go. A lot of people are going on there to find something else or look for products or look for services. So if you're selling something, obviously it's useful to have visibility in these places. Google today is index driven, so it's looking at how many pages you have going on across the web. Matching queries based on intent mostly now. It used to be the keywords had to be in there and the content and then the backlinks, and that still is there. But I'm gonna, you guys are gonna hear a little bit of my frustration with the industry. I keeping telling people that look, it's going to be about intent. Backlinks are going to start going away because it's not going to be about how many you have anymore. It's going to be about the quality and the intent behind it. Your links may not be relevant to what people are looking for, so now they're going to find ways to be able to measure that, which they already have, but now it's going to become more on the forefront. And those who were in the last workshop are going to see something I put in the slide that we did last time, that was very much indicative of that. Now, SERPs also are still heavily reliant on the old tactics like links and structure and authority, and it's still relevant. I also think that the other platforms emulate that, but I think they are still trying to build their new system around that. Plus, this new thing that the AI tools are doing more so now, and also it's fragmented, right? There's ads, maps, snippets, images, videos. When you go to Google and do a search, depending on what it is, you're going to get local and this and that and so and so. And if you noticed over the last 5 years, they've been saturating more with ads, so you can't even see organic results until the ads are done, right? So people are getting frustrated, and but to compete in that realm, you don't necessarily have to be a baller and get a bunch of ads up there. Might help, but you have to find out what kind of searches are people doing, because if the major keywords aren't working, the long tail keywords, what we call long tail, things that people might be looking for with questions and answers to things, those things work. You just have to do more of them. Okay, so you got to educate your public. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. AI search obviously is becoming conversation driven. Um, I don't know how you guys interact, but I tend to converse with the bots, right? The thing, the
Same.
AI. You know what I mean? Yeah. It because it's not. It's, if you, I explained this to someone recently. I go, you can't just be like coffee shop to AI, because it's just going to look at you like, well, what do you want to know? Like it's going to be almost like a person. Because I told my friend, I was like, yeah, it's almost if I walked up to you and just said coffee shop randomly out of the blue. They're going to be like, okay, what do you mean? Is this a new song, or is it like, do you want to go somewhere, or do you want to own a coffee shop? Like, what are you talking to me about? So you need a lot more context. And in a weird way, I'm kind of glad this is happening, because it's not just about keywords anymore. It's becoming more about, why are you typing this keyword in? Because normally Google is trying to guess. So do you want this, or this, right? And then you have to be more broad. And because the web is a lot more saturated, and people are, in some cases, helping the system, and in other cases, gaming the system to be on top of these searches and queries, then it's really now about, well, I'd like to find a coffee shop near me, or I'd like a coffee shop with organic grown beans, or I want a Brazilian coffee shop, right? So you have to be a lot more specific about what you're looking for, and then it will provide those results for you. And then I also distinguish between solutions and answers. This subtlety, very subtle nuance in language. You get answers from Google. You tend to get solutions from the generative AIs a little bit more. You get answers too, but it might offer a solution for you, so you could do your own thing with it. Right? As with Google, there are multiple sources that are curated, and it uses a lot of your personal stuff. So if you're logged in, it's definitely going to reach back and go, would you like to do something related to what you used to do? You could, but you kind of almost have to ask it not to, if you want to get outside of yourself. But it will keep you in a filtered bubble. So if I said coffee shops near me, it's definitely going to look in Ocean Beach, because it knows I'm in Ocean Beach now. But I might do the same query when I go visit my pals in LA, including Desmond now, and I'd be like, hey, Desmond, let's go get a coffee near me. And I asked generative AI, it's going to probably default to what I was doing in San Diego, or why I was in San Diego. So you kind of have to tell it not to do that. Generic stuff isn't as prevalent. Um, so we're shifting from now, like, keyword SEO to audience SEO. I think keywords is not outdated, but it's a little bit, for lack of a better word, a little older method of finding things, because now it's about who am I targeting, and this is a segue into what we're talking about with the issues being found on certain platforms. A lot of times we're only optimizing for keywords. We're not optimizing for our audiences, right? Our audiences are the ones typing in the keywords, but they search differently now. They don't just use keywords. So search volume, I'm going to make a prediction right now, is not going to mean anything. It's going to be correlated with what what are people asking in the orbital language around the specific topic. What types of things are being asked? And I do this a lot in class. We'll talk about the language that's around specific terms, right? If I say clear and digital, then I would make sure that I understand, what do people think of when they think of the word clear? What do people think of when they think of the word digital or labs? And then kind of expand outward from there and say, okay, well, what do people think of when they think of this service or education, right? I even explained to the owner, like, hey, so, I almost see this like it's like a Scrubs, like a learning for marketing instead of like if you watch the show Scrubs from a long time ago, it was like there was a learning hospital, it's a comedy based on a learning hospital. Um, that's how I've envisioned it, and it's like that's kind of an interesting way to put it because maybe people understand that a little bit better versus throwing a bunch of language at them. So, looking from the outside in, you may find that people use different language to describe things that you're talking about. So, make sure that you're building content around problems, motivations, and journeys. Okay, we'll talk about that again. And the formats, how different people consume content. This is why I say search everywhere. What kind of content do people consume that you're targeting? Right? Is it video? Is it imagery? Are they too busy to watch a video? Well, what would captivate them? A short video, maybe? Um, Maybe they travel a lot. Maybe a podcast, right? I think I told you this before. I did a podcast called Win the Web, and this is back in the day. It wasn't like all this stuff was available at the time, but we became pretty popular. And some of the things that people said was that we listened because we had like a morning style shows. Like me, I was the director of SEO. He was the director of social media. And he was like kind of the dynamic, like fun kind of partner. And I wouldn't say I was a straight guy, but I was also the guy that kind of added the more color commentary and broke things down and education things. And then we both riffed off each other. So it sounded like it was comedic, fun, and informative at the same time. And people liked the format. So they would share in it with their friends and we would talk to different people, and I'll get into some methodology related to that. But some people were saying that, hey, I listened to you on the way to work and on the way back. One episode. We had a 45-minute long show normally. People would drive to work, especially in LA or San Diego, and their commute time, they're just listening to us. They're doing other things. They can't watch us. They're just listening. Which if in a weird way, I was like, yeah, that's really awesome because they're digesting format. They don't even have to be on a computer. They could be on their iPad, a pod, or their phone and put it in the car, right? So I hadn't thought about that format, and that format works well if you're educating people that are very busy and don't have time to be bombarded with visuals. That being said, there's also the ways with visuals, videos, shorts, social media, etc. So make sure that you're accommodating to where your audiences are going to be, and then also funnel them in. So you're going to provide certain types of content. I'll talk about that in a minute. So you got to be discoverable across the AI, the social media platforms, videos, and search engines, which easier said than done, right? But you match the content platform's behavior. So what is it that they're good at? Meaning, what kind of content do they serve up, generally speaking, and why? Right? It's not enough to just put stuff out there. It helps to do that. Just keep pumping out stuff, but also try to measure what works. I'll give you an example. I produce music on the side, right? And I did this long rant on Facebook once. Yeah, I'm old, and I got a lot of replies from people that are in my circle and groups and all that other stuff, and people were like, "Wow, da 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 da," and it was really cool, da da da. And then one post I just mentioned I made this song, and I barely got anything. Part of the reason is I'm leading people away from the platform. They don't want you to do that, right? If I have links in my profiles or my posts, they're gonna downplay it. At least in terms of, um, let's say, most social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. They don't want you leaving. Matter of fact, when I don't rarely use TikTok, but when I go on there, I can barely leave it because I have to keep pressing back to get out of it. They're like, "You sure you don't want to stay and look at this one thing? You sure you don't want to stay?" Attention is the currency there. So you're competing with just getting people's attention now, right? And that's why you have to provide content that's either going to get attention or provide value to the person you're looking to get to take some kind of action on you. Also, you got to captivate them in a few seconds, meaning that you could put where you are or something captivating, and maybe put a watermark that explains where your website is versus a link. You want to make it easy as possible. Um, and then again, keep your brand data everywhere. So if people do follow you, make sure that you have ways to get a hold of you on every platform that you're on. I actually find this sometimes with clients is that it's weird they don't put their mentions and links back to their website on their profiles, which I'm like, yo, that's the first place you got to put it. I didn't understand that, but here we are. So and then joining groups and having micro conversations or things that are related to that are helpful. And again, we'll talk a little bit more tactics a little bit later. Um, so I'll go through this rather quickly. Google thinks you're categorizing your brand. What queries do you naturally rank for in terms of your brand? And matter of fact, type in your name and or your brand company in Google and see what comes up. Right. When I type in Alan Bush, there's a music composer named Alan Bush. My father happens to be named that, and he was a relatively famous hairdresser. So I have to go a little further. And if I type Alan Bush SEO, I own the first page, right? And probably the second page as well, because I've done a lot of different things in relation to SEO, right? Worked for the agencies, did podcasts, appeared at, I teach at UCSD. All these other things started popping up, right? So therefore, my brand recognition correlates me with SEO guy, right? As a matter of fact, if I want to pivot, it's going to be hard to get out of that. If I want to become, Alan Bush, the coffee salesman, it's going to be very difficult. But I'll have to figure that out later. Um, so think about, well, how do LLMs describe your purpose? Like, can you type your name in an LLM, like ChatGPT or Perplexity? What do you get? Or what do you get related to your business? What happens? What do they think of you? I worked with a woman named Lauren Monroe. She was a musician. She's married to someone fairly famous, and the drummer for Def Leppard, but she's not as famous. However, when I showed her what the ChatGPT thought of who she was, that was like, oh, she goes, oh, that's spot on. That's awesome, because they grabbed information about her from her website and social media profiles and a few articles that had been written about her. So they had her down to who she really was. Um, but then you want to see what topics you're associated with. Where do they direct users when asked about you? So what kind of, is it your website that's being referenced? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Whatever those things are. And so you could track demand around your name. Identify adjacent topics relate the audience to search for, and then see where the opportunities are when it comes to your brand. Because I think that you have to own that before you own the keywords. Meaning, where your brand is should, like I said, Alan Bush SEO. Like, I've associated my brand personally with SEO, and in some cases music production, but I use a different name under that. If I type in my stage name, that music's going to come up. It might mention Alan Bush as part of that, but it won't mention me as a musician or me as a producer or whatever those things are. Now, I think Musa and Tony were here when we did the speakeasy bars
We did.
query.
That was my idea.
Yeah, that was used Musa. Okay, yeah. So and I put it in this doc. And I was like, oh, that was perfect because we did it
Oh my
completely on the
God.
fly. You know, there was no Desmond. There was no, we didn't plan it. We were just, I was like, just give me a keyword, and then we just looked. We went across ChatGPT, Perplexity, and I was one other one I think, and we saw that they were grabbing from similar sources. It wasn't like Google, you have to guess where they're getting their main information from, and then whether or not because right now Google search goes with index web pages. They rank results based around links and like a 200 point system, which I won't tell you all of it because we don't know all of it, to be honest with you. But the authority of the website and the structure and surfaces, discrete pages, snippets, and media, and retrieval based. So speakeasy bars, it's like, okay, it's based around this and that, so on. So it's based around all these things. Whereas the AI search synthesizes all those answers and mulls it down to maybe main places where they saw it was most useful. Um, so they use it. They actually use a little bit more reasoning. They're like, well, they're looking for speakeasy bars. Speakeasies are typically alcohol, but also hidden nuggets. So let me look at places that are talking about this specific type of thing, rather than the websites have the content. Let me figure out who is really good about talking about that. Reddit, Reddit. There's people talking on Reddit. Let's talk. Let's look at that one. How about this San Diego? They were talking about San Diego. There's a San Diego magazine that really specializes in talking about restaurants and bars. Let me look at them, and then maybe these two and this two and this one, and they do that same rationale and say, okay, these are the sources I'm going to pull mostly from, and therefore I'm going to provide the information to the user based around that. That's almost like asking a friend who's really well, like if you said, hey, like I live in OB, for those in San Diego, if you were like, hey, where's the top three spots I should go to in OB? I'd be like, oh, dude, let me tell you, the Joint, Wonderland, and I'll give you those places, right, based on my personal experience. And then you ask my friend Crystal who lives down the street, and then you ask my office mate Kevin, and then we're all going to give you different results, but we're probably going to overlap because most of us agree, depending on what you're looking for. Like if you were looking for a dive bar, we would all go, okay, there's a handful. You're not looking for a restaurant. You're looking for a dive bar. Okay, why don't we think I'm going to give you the top three dive bars, right? So AI, as much as it's not a human, it basically its job is to think like a human, right, and use rationalization, right, and then they consolidate their response, and it does the work. It doesn't just show you links, but it does show you where it comes from, which this is what I do like about it currently, is as we saw the last time, we could see where it was grabbing it from. That was kind of cool. And we saw a lot of overlap. Reddit was a big one, and then that one magazine was a big one, and then the peripherally around that. But if I were to develop a strategy for someone, I'd be like, look, if I want a speakeasy bar, first of all, put speakeasy on my website, because the first thing that came up was the website that had speakeasy as the thing, the main key point of their establishment. Some were just mentioned that they are speakeasies, somewhat, but this one said we are a speakeasy, right? Pretty much. But the second place was Reddit. Maybe I develop a profile and go to Reddit and start engaging with them, and eventually mentioning my brand. The other one was this magazine. I do my best to get inside that magazine or get an article written for me by that magazine about my topic, not just mentioning me, but mentioning me in correlation to speakeasy bars, or in my case, in correlation to Alan Bush SEO. Right. So when my name is mentioned, SEO is mentioned next to it. It's just orbital language around my brand. Now, if someone just types SEO, it's going to be a lot harder, but at least I'm now attached to that, right? Just like speakeasy bars. The reverse is they didn't need to know the brand anymore. Your name's attached to speakeasy bars. So now you correlated your name is now somewhat synonymous with that language that people are using to describe it. And that's why those results showed very similar results in all three examples. You got a
I
question, Nikki?
wonder, yeah, I wonder if you type in like SEO San Diego, like your name would come up. Like SEO is such like a broad, short keyword, but if we
Okay.
like make it longer,
Yeah, so with that SEO, because it's a service, they're going to correlate that with a website and a service. And I'm going to, if it was just me, I would be competing with a lot of agencies. So I'd be competing
mm,
with the agency I used to work at. You know what I
oh
mean?
wow.
So
Yeah.
my name might come up, but it wouldn't be associated with doing SEO. It would be associated with Ignite Visibility is a company that does SEO because they have so much content and so many mentions that Ignite plus SEO goes together, right?
Yeah.
Seer company plus SEO go together. So me personally wouldn't be able to compete with that. It'd be SEO teacher, maybe, you know. Um, so again, there's correlations and things that we could always try, and now you got me curious what I would rank for. What do I rank for? This should be,
I'm curious.
you know what I mean? Yeah, like a reverse search engine. What do I rank for and everything? What does my name rank for? But you could always see what it does, and then how many different variations does it take to actually get to you. Some people have names that are very similar to other people's names. Some people have names that are famous people's names. So where do you how do you distinguish yourself and your brand, and then how do you associate your brand connected to something that you actually do. Businesses have it a little bit in some ways easier because their name is they do the service, and therefore they're backed up by all the mentions and the BBC, and not the BBC, the what is it, Better Business Bureau, and places that they're registered, and all the other things that they've likely done, even just to get the thing started. So think about different intent, and I'll go through this rather too quickly. It's commercial versus informational. Are you looking to sell something, or are you looking to get information? So what are you providing? And some of it will lead to other things. So where can you get people that would actually get in tune with you? Often you can't just sell things. I can't just be like, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this. I got to talk to you about the benefits. I got to talk to you about how I use it. I got to talk to you about what is the reality behind getting behind me, and then therefore you buy my purpose, right? You're adopting my purpose. Then you'll buy things from me, right? So I think that just make sure you differentiate that. Um, Again, transactional versus investigational. Transactions ready to act. Investigational is doing research and narrowing down the options. So you need to provide A, yes, a clear way to get your product or service in contact, and then B, if I'm not ready to make a decision, where else am I going to go to find it? I hopefully you'll show up there as well. Then I see you again. If I want a beer, I'm not, I'm in San Diego, so I'm not going to drink Budweiser. But Budweiser's everywhere, so I recognize that brand, and therefore, if I wanted a light beer and I wanted something that no one wanted, the same old thing, probably Bud, maybe Coors or something. That's why they have the brand recognition. But if I want to do deeper research on craft beers, now I got to think about what that means, and then what ones do I see more frequently, right? And then which ones do I trust? And in reality, you want good traffic. You don't necessarily want just traffic. I'd rather have 100 people that believe in me than 10,000 people that really don't give a flying hoot about what you do, right? Because the 100 people will pay attention to me, respond, interact with me, and provide some kind of value. The numbers are just numbers, right? Um, so with AI layer, like it reads context and your history and behavioral signals, and then tries to predict what it's about to do for you. So make sure that you're just keeping these things in mind as you're thinking about what the intent is behind searches. Um, I have this in terms of the type of content you put out there. Think of the term ARC, and it's awareness, broader topics that grow, reach. So you could correlate what you're looking to sell with some broader topics that connect the dots. Research, as I mentioned, you may want to have to explain how you do what you do, and then conversions are basically, what you know, do you have intent? Your pages that are selling the product say that this is what I do. Give me a call, right? Or contact me, or make this purchase, buy this thing online, whatever it is. So you have to have a balance of long-term and short-term strategies, and I think having this, like I said, arc, every customer goes through it, but you got to figure out where they are in there. Do they know exactly what they want? Those conversion pages are going to be the ones that you're going to lead them to, but also depending on who it is, what do they need to do, and what's their decision making. The research is where the bulk of most people are. They're still looking. They might be shopping around. What's going to make them trust you, right? I have a friend that sells filtered shower heads. She redistributes this company called Jolie. But what makes people buy from her versus going to Jolie's website? Convenience, customer service. She has other products besides shower heads. There may be other incentives to go there. She'll, okay, I'll buy from this. And maybe the fact that she's basically a one-person operation that's is still an esthetician. There's a lot of history that comes with that. So you got to, what's your differentiator, right?
Is it the
Some,
Jolie shower head? Like
mhm.
shower with Jolie, the brand?
Yeah,
I just
it's
looked it up and like as soon as I typed Jolie, like shower head just
Yeah,
popped up.
yeah, yeah. They're like this pretty cool filtered shower head where it turns the softens the hard water and adds filtration and makes it so that your showering experience is a lot better. If you got to
Yeah.
get one, go to wholebodycenter.com. I'm going to give her a shout out. Nice
I
lady.
feel like
She's really
it's
cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's some sort of an SEO success, like when you really associate this name to the brand, like when people type in Jolie, like shower head would just pop up on Google. Like Google
Yep.
would know that most people searching
Yeah.
Jolie are looking for the shower.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, even Google itself was became people will, hey, why don't you just Google it? Instead of saying search it on a search engine, they Google it. A lot of times when your name becomes the object associated with it, you're going to win. Not always, but in many cases, that's what happens. So if you can associate your brand with the main thing you sell, you're winning, right? Um, so um, some of the SEO 101 stuff here, basically, there's 4 pillars of optimization that you should be clear on your website: how your website's built, the site architecture, how you optimize the code on your website, so where the keywords and language is on which parts of your website. Most content management systems will allow you to do this pretty easily. So your title tags, meta descriptions, that's what shows up in searches, and regardless of where the searches are done. And then in your content, which is the next pillar, what types of content you're offering, and is it optimized? Does it have the language you want it to have? And then the links going back to your website. All of these things are still applicable. And I know people are probably going to not like when I say this. It's like, it's been the same since I've been doing this, right? It's just that within those pillars, some things change, some things more important. They might be a new thing, right? So, because of faster internet, some things have become more important, like video. Video wasn't as important 15 years ago, but now that we can just download things in seconds, video's a lot more. And now you have access to everything on your phone. So mediums change, but the actual thing, content is content, right? It's not just copy; it's content. Backlinks, whatever the things are, there's just different layers of what those things are, right? And we can call it what you want, but if you could say backlinks, if I were to change everything to my liking, I would change backlinks into mentions and or let's say internet presence, right? People linking back almost now it matters, but I feel like if I got mentioned by CNN and Wikipedia with no links back, I bet you I'll still get traffic, right? It's just, it's the links are links, and they used to have to measure it that way because they didn't understand how authoritative a mention was, what that even means. A link back means that someone can click on it and get to you, right? That means a lot. That's why I say I'd rather have traffic from a web link than a link that doesn't get any traffic, even if the website's huge. All those Forbes links that people used to get all the time, they go to Forbes and get a link from Forbes. And I got a link from Forbes magazine, but they were buried so far in the site they weren't getting any traffic. Meanwhile, I'm going to these smaller companies that are growing and trying to improve themselves and actually are authentic and related to what I do. I'm getting traffic from them and probably customers, not just rankings. And that's what really matters is I'm getting money, right? So again, just to reiterate, the awareness, draw people in with ideas. Research is providing resources, usually education, some kind of thing to help them and to make decisions and align with your purpose. And then conversions, which is basically where you want people to take action and make sure the actions are clear. Sometimes I see websites that they don't, they're not very clear about what they're doing there. Now, I have a whole thing about all these individual things, but in the interest of time, I'm going to just shortcut a lot of this. But content formats for awareness is probably where you want to look at: video shorts, social posts, graphics, um, blogs, things that connect you to the idea that people are talking about. I'll even say one step further. A tactic I did use when I had this website that I was helping a long time ago. I just found 3 forums that were talking about the topics that I wanted to talk about, and I went in there and just started chatting with those people. Now Reddit is a big one, but it's saturated. But if you get mentioned on Reddit, it helps. But there's some ones that are very specific to the enthusiasts. Let's say sell bird products or something. I'll go to the Autobahn.com website. Maybe they have a forum and talk about birds with them. Right? And then eventually they see that I sell something that helps them. Right? Maybe I provide a video short about this particular type of feeder or whatever. Right? And then the enthusiasts are the ones that are going to promote me and or buy my products. But ask the questions that they're asking. You know, if you're not clear, there's a tool called Also Asked that you could literally go to right now. You get one query a day, but if you sign up, you get more, and if you pay for it, you get a large number of queries you could do, and say, hey, you know, which keep bird feeders, and then it'll give you a list of questions that people are literally asking online. Research. This is how we're valued. So like top, best, what alternatives, reviews. Now it's about authority and trust. So who's mentioning what you do and your products, and more importantly, who's mentioning you, and that could determine when they make that decision, depending on what you sell. You know, if you're a service-based thing, it's going to be about the reviews and testimonials and people saying you're awesome, and then also the value you add to the customer. If you're selling products, it might be about the product itself, um, and the convenience on how to get it versus going to Amazon. Maybe they could get something cheaper that I'm selling or whatever it is. So case studies, comparison pages, long form content, and a knowledge base helps out with that. And again, ask those questions. But resources should really teach and explain. And if you're a knowledge expert, regardless of what it is, even if you're not an expert, can you talk about it? Right? Yeah, I'm not an expert at certain topics, but I can sure talk about them. I'm not an expert at music. I'm not even a musician technically, but I could talk to you about music production for sure. Techniques, things I've learned, who I like, who I'd recommend. Where I'd recommend to get started, and I can provide value to people that are getting started in the industry. And then conversions are kind of, in a weird way, self-explanatory. That's the place where you want people to take their transactions. You know, is it convenient for them? Can they buy it online? Do they have to be near you to come to you? But make sure the actions are clear about what they need to do. I need to sign up. I need to call you. I need to pay something online. I could use PayPal. Oh, great! Press the button. 2 clicks. I got the thing. Right. And then you want to make sure you remove friction from anything pain points they might have. So just highlight how easy it is to work with you. So I'll wrap up this slideshow with the audiences, and again, I keep going back to acronyms, but think about the 3 audiences you want to build this arc for. Are there's nuance, but I want you to think of them in 3 different categories. One is the people that promote you. Who would advocate for what you do? In my case, it's probably people that worked with me. In some cases, it may even be people that I've done podcasts with or done speaking engagements with. I can get them to support my cause. They don't have to buy anything from me, but they can support me. So they'll share my information with the people they know. That's their goal, is to get them to share something. If they buy it, great. But if you get somebody popular or in your niche to mention you or to promote you, even better. So you got to get someone to believe in you that has influence. Your sphere of influence, start there. But then reach out from there to people that may not be in your direct sphere, but do believe your cause. And if you can get people to believe you, they will maybe help you, right? The adapters, the next one, the A, are the people that actually buy your stuff. So the goal for them is to buy your stuff, right? Services or whatever products. They may promote you, but that's not the main goal you need them to do. The main goal is it's kind of the reverse of the pioneers or the promoters. Um, the main goal is you need to buy. So they're going to go through the whole ARC system most of the time, but the main goal for them is the purchasing, and they're your core clientele, and they make up for the majority of your targeting. Uh, Laggards, you want to account for these slow adopters because sometimes they need a little bit more insights. They can teach you what it is that you're missing, the gaps, and they also, if you address their pain points, often they become promoters in some cases. If you can convince someone who's completely doubtful of what you do that what you do helps and they did it, they're like, I never would have believed it. I've had that happen when I was a loan officer. I think I told this story before, but guy, I literally just convinced him to do a loan that he didn't think I could do. He literally said that. And then I just asked him, so what, why aren't you doing this? And he said, well, I just don't believe you could do it. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, no cost to you. That I explained to him the whole process. And then he finally said yes. When he got the loan, he said, man, I think you can do that. I still remember his inflection. Man, I think you can do that. And then he did 3 more loans with me because he had different properties and he did a second loan on the house and all this stuff. So he became a promoter of me. So again, the innovators and visionaries are motivated by usually leadership and endorsement. And so if you appeal to their leadership techniques and you give them early bird responses and amplify their content, tell them about certain things, and really lock minds with people like this, they tend to be promotive of you. Like, thank you, I appreciate that. Da, da, da. They can be owners of businesses. They can be people that are in the space that are leaders. They could be even they might even be right next to you. They might be your former boss, right? But they'll give you a shout out or whatever it is that you need to get started. But help them provide value by showing that you're an expert, or at least you have some opinions about what they have to say, and then hopefully they have opinions about what you have to say. I've had that happen where LinkedIn, I'll just chime in on certain things, and someone will be like, "Dude, that totally makes sense." I've done that on Instagram too, where like, "Hey, that looks like such and such." I'll like provide some value, and they're like, "You know what? It does." And if they're paying attention, they'll respond. I've had famous people respond to things that I've said on Instagram, which then puts them in their feed, and people are like, "Oh, who's that guy?" I don't do it a lot because I don't really care. But if I'm really promoting myself on Instagram or TikTok, that's where I would start. Is pick a handful of people that I really enjoy their content, that are also more prone to respond to their customer base. So they can't be too popular. They can be. You might get their attention, but usually in that nice middle section of popularity where they have a good following, but they also care about their people, so they'll respond to that. Um, Sometimes they'll do that with like certain live feeds too. There's a musician guy who plays people's music and he'll listen to it. We're all listening together, and if we give little shouts out, sometimes he'll notice it and he'll mention you. Oh, look at Ready for Greatness. Oh, you show Alan, whatever he did this. So people are like, yo, who are you? And then they become fans of me eventually. Your adapters are the forerunners, the pragmatists, and conservatives, and the nuanced layers. There's 3 different layers there. There's everything from the early adopters to the late adopters in terms of they understand what you provide. They just need different variations of proof or trust associated with it. And that's where you're going to have to kind of convince them. Some people get it, and some people it'll have a little bit more of a challenge. But give them some of that, what they call middle funnel content. Comparison pages, reviews, best of, practical guides, things they could do with it, advice, that type of thing. And then there's the people that doubt. The reason why you target them, again, not just because they might be customers, but they also provide valuable lessons in what might be the thing that you're missing. So they're going to need longer content. You need to be a little more hand holding with them. And you might have to convince them that they need or should have something that you're offering, even if they have it already. Or if they have a trusted resource. Or they don't need it. I don't need that fancy coffee. I get Starbucks all the time. And it's like, yeah, but there's this one down the street that actually it's $5 for this size hammerhead with honey, right? And they put it right there, and they give you these little stickers, and and if you happen to like attractive women, they're there too. You can start convincing people instead of going to Starbucks. Funny enough, there's no Starbucks in Ocean Beach here, so that it got because of that. Funny enough, the exact reason I'm mentioning, not because of that, but because this everyone was loyal to the mini coffee shops. They didn't want the big brands, and the coffee people have a good in here because there is no big brand coffee shop here any longer because Ocean Beach type people don't like that. So set up shop here. Now you got to be successful, right? So if pick your audience, and then your reputation, that type of thing. If they see other people are following you or mentioning you, they're gonna follow suit after that. Um, I even have a whole guide about like how to ask the right questions and all this with the spreadsheets. And at some point, I'll probably provide this for everybody. Right now, I'm working on a class that'll be doing this. Hopefully, I want to teach this methodology more in depth in correlation because this is agnostic to any marketing channels. This does not matter what type of marketing you do. If people are searching for something, if you apply the targeting audiences, then you'll know what to do. What's going to drive awareness? What's going to drive them to do research and or provide research? Then you'll know where to put your content, whether it be in an ad, a social media post. All should be on your website, and then you'll know where to distribute the content, and then what type of content to reach out to them. So let's just stop there because I haven't really finished this thing. All right, thank you guys. You guys have a rest of the night. Enjoy yourselves, and let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you the next time.
All right. Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
All
Yeah.
right,
Thank you so
take care,
much.
guys.